What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Volleyball Source Podcast. It is Thursday, May 27th. My name is Everett DeLorme, and I am joined by the enemy this time. He is wearing the wrong colors. Mr. Rob St. Clair. Rob, how are you?
Hey, buddy. It's great. Thank you for having me. I'm stepping into enemy territory here.
Yeah.
And while I love you very much and I love your show and I always appreciate you having me on, not this time.
No, this time is for pure shit talk. Because tomorrow the men's edition of the Volleyball Nations League gets kicked off in Rimini, Italy, and of course is getting kicked off with a banger. Good old Canada versus USA right off the bat to get us going. And to be perfectly honest, I'm a little bit sad that we didn't give us a chance to germinate a little bit, add a little bit of spice into it. But hey, if we're gonna kick it off, might as well. It kind of reminds me of the Olympics back in 2016, and we all remember how that went.
I knew that was going to come up. It's okay. I was going to bring it up later because I am so confident in my team's ability to beat down little brother over and over again that I will not be triggered by any level of trash talk. Even though like the FI, like you said, the FIVB hasn't like built this particular rivalry up this time, but we in the Volleyball Source Discord most certainly have. The trash talking has been going for quite some time now. I'll quickly gloss over the fact that on the women's side, this same matchup happened yesterday, and we don't need to talk about the results. I don't want to make you feel even worse than you're already going to feel tomorrow. But
if you want to know about the results, I just released a podcast, and it will be out if you're listening to this about the women's events with Stefan Choi, another guy from our Discord. So yeah, we don't need to talk about it here because we already lamented the fact that it was a rough go for Canadian women. Yesterday it was. However, the men is a different story, and you know what is the men, whether it's internationally, in the NCAA versus U Sports, or even at the club level, the Canada versus USA clash is literally one of the only sports that in men's volleyball is one of the only sports that we play at par in. So that's why I love to puff my chest and kind of be like, hey, we're out here. Because we are out here and we can go toe to toe with you guys and hand you some losses, and it's completely legitimate, and that's why I love it.
Yeah, I love this rivalry too. And so here's the way I want to preface this entire exchanging of trash talk. I would like for us to go into all of this by committing to making no excuses for either team. Like we have no idea what lineup we're going to see tomorrow. I certainly have no clue what we're going to see from the U.S. and I don't care, because if we lose, regardless of who plays, I will accept any trash talk coming to me. I don't believe we will. And I will make that same claim for the history of this rivalry in the last 5 years that we will talk about. I will not make any excuses from my side. I will commit to that because I want this to be fuel for both sides, and hopefully perhaps the players who might listen to this to do the same. I want this rivalry to mean as much to the players as it does to us, because that's sick. And it should matter. It should matter for the USA to want to beat Canada. It should matter for the Canada to want to beat the US. And while our average tournament finishes internationally are lopsided in a certain big brother's favor, however, head to head, it's a toss up.
This is what I'm talking about. Right?
Hey, I'm telling you right now, I'm coming here into enemy territory, and I'm saying head to head, it's a toss up. Despite the fact that we outplace you at every single tournament without fail, Canada will routinely, except for the 2017 World League.
Yeah,
and we'll get to that.
I mean, I'm gonna be leaning on that heavily. throughout this show.
Tucker.
Yeah, I'm going to be leaning on that heavily.
Yeah, that and the 2016 Olympics. I wish we should just put a counter on the screen for how much
I would
fun.
even throw in the asterisks of the 2015 NORCECA Grand Champions Cup that happened in Detroit. That was kind of that kicked everything off. Since then, I believe those numbers.
So actually, let's do it. Let's start there. So I went back today and I cataloged every match between the U.S. and Canada since the 2016 Olympics, including and since the 2016 Olympics. But it is worth talking about that match in 2015 because, first of all, that highlight that you made, you took all it was a baseline camera, classic highlight from that Detroit tournament, is what introduced me to your channel in the first place, I think. And I remember watching that match. I remember it being sick. I remember Matt Anderson like almost taking TJ Sanders' head off, hitting him in the throat cross court.
One of the biggest packs I've ever seen.
I remember Steve Marshall playing opposite and being sick. And then I remember Taylor Sander and Matt Anderson getting ace to lose the match, like 16-14 in the fifth. And it was sick. It was a really good match. And it was definitely the first time I can remember, and I've been watching international volleyball since 2009. It was the first time I ever remember losing to Canada. And
that was the first one. And I even that one like because Gavin Schmidt was our big gun at the time, and he was out and staying down because we had already qualified for whatever we needed to qualify for at that point, because it wasn't a NORCECA it was the NORCECA Champions Cup to qualify for the FIVB Champions Cup, and two teams
it
like
wasn't
it's one of these like just weird ass tournaments that we only have in volleyball. It's like, hey, we don't play enough. Let's play more.
Here, let's just screw it.
That
was cool though, because it was in conjunction with
the
USAV
PVL,
Adult Nationals, PVL back in Detroit that Memorial Day, which was cool. But yeah, that was really the first time in my memory that Canada beat the US. That was the end of Freddie Winter's career, which was sick. TJ Sanders in his prime, Justin Duff, Dan Lewis was still playing libero at that point. So look at me. I know my Canadian history too, at least starting in 2015.
And I mean, that was kind of the beginning of this American roster. That was Max Holt, Max Anderson, Micah Christensen. Like pretty much like Murphy Troy was on the roster.
Yeah, Murphy Troy played opposite in that match because Anderson played left side. So this is right at the beginning of like the second full year of Taylor Sanders' career. This is the very beginning of Aaron Russell becoming who he now is. This is the beginning of the American core that is what it is now. You're right.
Yeah, well, that was very much kind of the first year, because I believe we did qualify for the World League Finals that year as well.
15? I don't remember. Man.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure 15 is the year that we qualified for the World League Finals and beat Russia that year too. But yeah, there's been some epic moments between Canadian and American volleyball over the years. I got to see one of them in person, and I think you've seen one of them in person as well too. I got to see them World League in Ottawa in 2018, I believe. And
VNL, it was the first VNL in 2018. The U.S. went to Ottawa and beat you 3-1. Then the following year, I was there in my home city, or the suburbs of Chicago, where Canada came in the 2019 VNL and beat us 3-1. I was there.
So we've both watched our team lose in our hometowns. I grew up in Ottawa, so
that's right. Yeah, that was a tough one.
So like it's pretty much even. Like you could almost split it down the middle in terms of
Well, it's funny you say that, because I will tell you this right now. Across all competitions, and this is pretty informally collected by me a couple hours ago. Starting with the 2016 Olympics, the USA and Canada are 5-5.
Woo.
Now, if you break that down into competitions that I deemed internationally meaningful, Canada actually leads 4-3.
Ooh.
So that removes. There was a World Championships warm-up match that we played in Slovenia in 2018 before the 2018 World Championships.
Okay, so you went deep with these.
Oh yeah, I went every match that was played. So US 3-1 Canada in that one. I basically threw that one out. And then there were two NORCECAs. There was one in Colorado Springs in 2019 where Canada beat the US 3-1. It was the USA C team. I threw that one out. Let's see, NORCECA 2017, also in Colorado Springs, USA 3-0 Canada in an absolute beatdown. Fortunately for you, I threw that one out.
But no, that was a legitimate one.
You could argue that it was, but like I don't really care about NORCECAs because those tournaments don't mean that much to me. I was really counting VNL, like Olympics, World League, VNL, World Championships, and then World Cup, because we've played in pretty much all of those. I also didn't count because we didn't play, but wanted to point out that in NORCECAs in 2019 in Canada, Winnipeg,
yes.
Right? We didn't play, but our B team outplaced you, so suck it.
I mean, there's a large asterisk to that one, and we're not.
No, there's not.
Yeah, it's called Cuba.
Yeah, we beat them in pools.
You had to play Dominican Republic in the semifinals.
We beat Cuba in pools.
The reason Republic, it was Puerto Rico. No,
probably
Mexico.
it might have been Mexico. Who cares? The reason why we didn't play Cuba until the finals is because we beat Cuba in pools, and that was
Yeah,
our B
but
team.
Cuba in pool play versus Cuba in the finals and in
Yeah, that
playoffs was two drastically
that
different teams.
that Cuban team was sick. Check out the Volleyball Source YouTube channel for those videos. So let's go back to the beginning of this period, like I've collected here today. Okay,
All right.
2016 Olympics. The 2016 Olympics is Everett's probably the peak of your entire existence, right? Canada beating the US 3-1, 3-0, shit.
3-0 right at the first
3-0 in
day
the
of
first
the
match of the
Olympics.
tournament.
First day of the Olympics, it's on prime
Brutal.
time on CBC. It's on
Brutal.
prime time on NBC, or maybe not even prime time because you guys have that weird thing that everything is backdated with
Tape
your
delayed. Yeah, who
Yeah.
knows? I don't remember. Honestly, I don't remember the match
I-
vividly in my head, but I'm sure you do.
I honestly, it's pretty foggy because I had come home from a 4-day boys camping trip. So there wasn't much sleep, and a few beers were drinking kind of in the literally
Love it.
got home that day and watched the match.
Love it.
So yeah, it was it was a little fuzzy, but yes, it was. I was elated at that moment, and it was just kind of like to be honest, it was less of a statement to the volleyball world and more of a statement to Canada, right?
I like that.
Because truly, obviously, volleyball is way far down. It's come up in stature since then. Like the 2016 Olympics helped that massively, just with the amount of exposure we had both on the indoor and the beach. But it was really like in Canada, you made of course we do have a little brother syndrome in a way, because the only thing we actually beat you in hockey, and then if we lose to you in hockey, it's like a national disgrace.
That it's
And
incredibly
we have
embarrassing.
it's,
That's right.
it's really bad. So whenever we beat you guys in anything, it's a big deal. And beating you guys in team sports is really only hockey and women's soccer that it ever happens. And it never happens, it doesn't happen at the Olympics. You guys always find a way to rig it in your favor, like you did.
Well, the Olympics is cool
like
for
you did
that
in
reason
2016.
because the Olympics is cool for that reason because it puts individual sports on a stage that reach past that sports audience. Like, that obviously. And so people will root for Team Canada just because they're Canadian, not because they really care about volleyball. And yeah, I'm sure that the fact that Canada beat the US 3-0 in the first match of the Olympics in 2016 was a nationally big deal. And I'll say this right now. When we're not playing you, I'm a huge Canada fan. I think
Likewise.
Yeah. I think Canada being good is great for the game of volleyball. But now that it's been proven that Canada is able to beat the U.S. on occasion, I have to take my trash talking a little more seriously and start with the fact that the only reason you were even in those Olympics is because we won World Cup in 2015, and you didn't even have to go through us to qualify continentally. So you're welcome.
No. That's where you're wrong, sir. Because we didn't even qualify continentally. We qualified at the last chance qualifier.
Oh, that's
you know
right. You
why?
lost to
because
Cuba.
we shit the bed at home against Cuba, right?
I forgot.
So you know what? That take away that thanks, because we didn't need you. We got by on the string of our own underpants, okay? And trust
Wow,
me, because
I forgot about that.
man, you're bringing up some PTSD right now with friggin' Edmonton back in 2016, because
I forgot.
that
I'm
was
sorry.
that was a
Didn't mean to.
devastating one. That's why qualifying the way we did at home against Cuba back in 2020 was such a large deal.
That was one of my favorite matches I've ever watched. I was rooting for Canada so hard. It was so sick. So anyway,
I mean, likewise, that one of my other favorite matches I've ever watched was the 2008 final between USA and Brazil. Right?
Doesn't get any better than that.
There's some mutual admiration over there. However, I will state that I think we're gonna win tomorrow. Right?
I couldn't disagree more.
You know what? I think that we're coming in. After speaking to Blair Bandon, I'm pretty upset that I haven't posted that interview yet, just because the audio is terrible and mine is so low and his is so high. So I've been going through and painstakingly editing the entire audio, but it takes a while. And there's been a lot of things going on with VNL and Beach and stuff like that. But in speaking to Blair Bandon, it seems like the boys are firing, and we have our roster, right? All of our guys are healthy. All of our guys are coming off of, the majority are coming off of some pretty good seasons overseas. And I really think that the COVID break actually helped us, right? At the time, it was obviously a little bit devastating, but I think it helped us in terms of just repairing the bodies and the minds of some of the guys on our team.
There were some of the same things that I was feeling about the USA. So first of all, coming into this coming into last year's Olympics before it got canceled, I was like, oh no, we might be in serious trouble here because there was no way Taylor Sander was going to be able to play. His shoulder this time last year was absolutely just non-functional. And so the fact that the Olympics got pushed back to this year gave him a chance to even be there, which is huge. Now, I was extremely high then on the Americans' Olympic chances this year until the Aaron Russell news. Now,
That's devastating.
That sucks, but you guys can go listen to the 5-1 volleyball podcast I was on with our very good friend Dan, which got posted, I believe, yesterday, where we reviewed his like top 4 teams in VNL rankings, and he put the USA at 4, which I believe is a fair spot. And I talked about this, where like Aaron Russell's a big loss, but if you think about in the last quad, since him and Sander have been the clear starters, the first guy to go to the bench, if need be, is always Aaron Russell. Always. He is. It's usually because he doesn't have a very good passing day, or he is just spatching balls out of bounds offensively or from the service line, and he gets pulled for a more ball control type of guy. So that is not something strange to the American national team to replace Aaron Russell with somebody. However, like I won't sit here and tell you that I wouldn't rather have Aaron Russell playing, but like if you get any like a Thomas Jeschke or a TJ DeFalco or even a Garrett Magatutia, who you can expect to see a good amount this VNL, those guys they're not nearly as good as Aaron Russell, but they fit a role in his place that at least makes sense to the team in such a way that those of you in the Volleyball Source Discord who have been saying, oh yeah, blow it up, the Americans have no chance. I disagree with that for that reason, because I think there is some fit, there is some familiarity with playing without Aaron Russell, even though it would be nice to have him. You can't replace his high ball scoring ability. You can't replace his blocking ability, but you can replace some of the other things. And I think we're going to be fine in that regard for that reason. The reasons why I'm a little concerned about the break for the U.S. is Matt Anderson's play. He has hardly touched a volleyball in pretty much 2 years. But for those of the people who have brought that up to me, trash talking the Discord, I have reminded them time and time again that if you are counting out Mr. Matt Anderson, you are an idiot and you are going to learn the hard way.
I mean, I will have you know that I have never been one of those people, because I don't think that, like, I think that Matt Anderson is one of those types of athletes that can turn it on and off, you know? And I think that he's a little longer in the tooth, let's say. You know, he's getting up there in age. He's one of the more senior members of this roster, and we've already seen a situation kind of in the 2010s when Matt Anderson had to take some time away from volleyball for his mental health when he was at Zenit Kazan. So for me, I just see that as an extension of this, and of course, like there's much more that goes into that now. Now he's a father and all these things. So I just see that as a pause away from volleyball, and that if anything, he's just going to be hungrier coming back, you know? And so that's why, like, I am not sleeping on Matt Anderson at all. Like, I would not be surprised if we see Matt Anderson as being an all-star at the end of this event. You know, that's how highly I regard him, right?
I think that not only are you going to, might he play at that level, I think he might play at that volume. Just because, even though the U.S. brought 4 opposites to VNL, which is just ridiculous in my opinion, but I think you're going to see him play both pins because he obviously can, and I think you're going to see him play a pretty decent amount because he hasn't played in a while, and the more in match touches he can get, the better. So I do think you're going to see a lot of Matt Anderson. And again, based on our matchup tomorrow and just throughout this tournament, I'm not making any excuses for the USA's win-loss record based on what roster they choose to throw out there. But I think that even though VNL is a training ground for a lot of guys to get minutes, I think you will see a lot of Matt Anderson for that reason.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, I think you might as well run him. If there's anyone who needs to find his rhythm throughout this VNL, it's definitely him. It's definitely Matt Anderson.
Yep.
Right. To be honest though, like when I look at the Canadian roster right now, I'm excited because there's so many different looks that we can give, and everyone, legitimately everyone is there to be able to contribute to that roster, right? In any situation, I think that we can throw anyone in. Maybe not our backup libero, Jordan Pereira, not that I don't believe in his ability. However, this is his first taste of international play ever, right? But then again, Blair Ban is a guy that he's a workhorse, right? Like, and he's an energetic guy, like, and he's a libero, so like he's gonna he has the ability to play a little bit longer. But when you look at our four outsides, they're almost interchangeable in some ways, right?
So Mar, Lepke, Hogue, Marshall.
Marshall, sorry, 5, and Perrin.
Oh, Gord, of course.
And you know what? Like that's one. Like I really think that this is going to be. We are going to be seeing vintage Gord Perrin, and we haven't really seen that. You know, like you talked about how Taylor Sander wasn't going to be available. Gord would have been available, but he wouldn't have been healthy, right? His back was killing him. He didn't play at the 2019 Orsika Championships, right? That's another reason why there's maybe an asterisk. So I'll make excuses about that one, right? Because Gord was sitting on the bench just stranded, right? He got subbed out after the first set in that match against Cuba, right? And Nick Hogue came in and done that job. But like, you know, if you look at that the depth of that left side squad between Marshall, Hogue, Perrin, and Lepke, like there's a lot of depth there, and there's a lot of different looks, right? So, and another thing to consider with Team Canada is that I think that maybe our potential roster for the Olympics is larger, right? Like you could maybe like literally any 5 of those left side guys you can make an argument for of why they should be on the
for sure
the roster for the Olympics. You know, even a guy like Danny Demyanenko, who maybe some would say doesn't have a chance, has an outside chance of making it to the Olympics if he can perform during VNL here. I know he's an undersized guy, but if you look statistically, he actually touches higher than like Lucas Van Berkel and Danchense Van Dorn in some scenarios, right? So, you know, you can make the argument that he could be there. And then like the setters, it's going to be a complete toss-up between who we're going to be running with the 3 of them.
That's a great point.
I do think that the one guy that is going to be guaranteed to be going is Jay Blankenau, because he's, you know, the guy who's the most healthy and the most ready to go, and it's really going to be between, you know, Brett and TJ. But once again, that's going to be determined over the course of this VNL. So I think our guys are going into it with something to prove, because not only do they have something to prove in terms of Team Canada to the world, but they've got something to prove to Glenn Hogue and being like, this is why you're going to be bringing me to Tokyo.
I think that's a very good point. You guys might have more of a bunched group, because I mean, we talk about all the time, roster size in every other FIVB event is 14, but for the Olympics it's 12. So the coaches have very tough choices to make. I don't know. I don't even know who your backup libero is. I'm not confident in him in any way, but otherwise, for across the board for you guys, I feel pretty good about your position depth, even compared to or better than the Americans' position depth at some of those positions. However, our starters have you in pretty much across the board. Micah Christensen, you can't compete with that. Don't try. Okay. Matt Anderson on the right, you can't compete with that. Don't try. Max Holt in the middle is ever so slightly better than Graham Vigrass when healthy, but not by much. I'm a huge Vigrass fan.
Different styles, but I'll agree with that.
Yes, Dave Smith just won Champions League, although one of your other middles, I don't know, might come close. Taylor Sanders,
Arthur Schwartz, buddy. Come on, you know how I feel about Arthur Schwartz.
I do. That's overblown. We'll see how this VNL goes. Taylor Sander, you can't compete with that. I know Gord Perrin's good. I don't care. He's not as good as Taylor Sander. And then Aaron Russell, when healthy, you can't compete with that either, because you don't have a guy of that size and that play style.
Yeah, but we can't bring up Russell right now. He's not around.
No, he's not around, so it doesn't matter. So
that's 100% where like the crux of your roster is in that P2 position, right? We're not talking about next year. We're not even talking about the Olympics. We're strictly talking about tomorrow. We are strictly talking about tomorrow, noon Eastern time, 11 a.m.
That's right.
11 a.m. Central
11
time?
a.m. my time. So what's funny is that Dan and I have the European volleyball show tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern, and which we have pledged to one another to keep well under an hour, so that we can immediately hop over to the voice chat on Discord at noon Eastern and flip from our like professional European lens of talking about volleyball to pure trash talking, and I'm so excited for it.
It's honestly like it makes me so excited, because like international men's volleyball is arguably my favorite type of volleyball, and
it's arguably my favorite sport, period. Like it.
Okay, I'll jump in that.
I like rooting for the American men's national team almost as much as I like rooting for the Packers, and that's really saying a lot for me. It really is,
especially right now with how they're treating your boy. But
We are not talking about that. This is a pro Aaron Rodgers universe that I'm living in. Okay, so like I've grown up a St. Louis Cardinals baseball fan, but I think I like watching American volleyball more than that. Like that's how important, like how much of a just a pure fan I am of the American men's national team. But
I have
we haven't
shed
seen it in
tears.
2 years.
I have shed tears over the Ottawa Senators. And I mean, it's pretty easy to be a Canadian volleyball fan over the Ottawa Senators now, but it's still a thing.
Well, yeah, that's like how that's how excited I am. That's the level of excitement I am to even watch American volleyball again because it's been 2 years and it's just been a long time and I love it so much. And as much fun as I had watching this club season because it was electric and there was so much wacky stuff that went on in Champions League, like it's just not the same as the international game for me. I just love it that much more. I think the nationalism really adds so much to it. There's such a more diversity of play style. The culture is just so cool to me. And VNL is a good starting point. It's not the greatest competition in international volleyball. We'll obviously agree on that. But in stepping stones to Tokyo and in ways to get us back into international ball, USA Canada is going to be a pretty nice way to do it. And I'm just excited to be able to just talk trash again. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I think we win set one. I think like the boys are ready to go, and I think we come out firing in set one.
Okay. Yeah, I really just don't know who we're going to throw out there. I really hope that we throw the A team out there because I want it to mean something to the guys. Like, so I'm thinking back to the last couple USA Canada matches that we've seen, and I want to go over the rest of them. World Cup 2019, we beat you 3-2, but it really didn't matter very much.
No,
that whole tournament didn't matter.
No.
You didn't have a lot of your team. We didn't have a lot of our team, whatever. VNL 2019, you beat us in Chicago, like we talked about. Micah Ma'a set that day, but other than that, it was pretty much the USA's A team. Like Matt Anderson played. I think Sander played. I was really impressed by Brett Walsh that day. That was the first time I knew who he was. I thought he ran a great offense, and I just remember Gord Perrin absolutely roofing the shit out of Matt Anderson like 3 times. So
Gord Perrin is arguably one of the best left side blockers in the world.
He's a sick blocker. A very notable one that is almost as important as the Olympic one that you love to bring up is when we stomped you at World Championships in pretty much an elimination match in 2018.
Oh yeah, that was a tough one. You're right. Ouch.
Yep. So that happened. We're skipping over that like Slovenia World Championship warm-up match like I talked about earlier. That doesn't matter. VNL 2018, we beat you in Ottawa. We already talked about that. And so, Everett, I'm spoon-feeding you an opportunity to talk about the 2017 World League. Not only did you beat us twice, and one of them was in the finals.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
I mean, it was, you know what? I think that we are going to see the same energy and the same fire from that Canadian team in 2017 this year. You know, I really think that this year is going to be something special and that we have a group that it has been recharged and rejuvenated and are excited to play with each other. And that's one of the best things for Canadian volleyball. Our brand of volleyball we're not big bangers like you guys, you know? Matt Anderson likes to swing hard. We like to swing smart. You know, we like to play smart. And of course, we are all led by the one, the only Grandpa Hogue, who has been
the legend.
He has been, upgraded because we know him as Big Daddy Hogue here in Canada. However, due to Nick Hogue already being the daddy of a certain team in Italy, Hogue has been upgraded to Grandfather Hogue. And if you don't know what
fantastic.
we're talking about, it means you need to come hang out on the Discord.
Yes.
However, and that's one of the things, in my podcast with TJ Sanders, he talked about the difference between pro volleyball and national team volleyball. And in the fact that pro volleyball is very athlete driven. It's about plays. It's about, big plays, high jumpers. It's the better athletes are the team that's going to win. However, in international volleyball, because how they dissect it so much, structure matters so much, and how the team plays together matters that much more because the margin is just so much closer. And there's no slight whatsoever to John Speraw and his staff and what the American national team has established. Obviously, it's one of excellence. However, I am a huge supporter and believer and believer of what we've got going on in Canada and the system that Glenn Hogue has built in place. And that's why I think that, you know what, Dan is out here ranking Canada as 10th for VNL. Like, boys.
Dan's been in Europe a little too long. You need to
He has been
bring him back to the motherland
like
and show him
we might have to
what's up.
confiscate that Team Canada jersey, maybe take down the Raptors banner from the wall.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
Throw it, and you know what? Like when he said it, I kind of like took it. I was like, you know what? Sure. Like I'm not gonna say anything about it. This is your show, and we're gonna let you have it. But man, I feel it in my bones. I feel it in my bones that, you know what? I think tomorrow tomorrow's going to go 3-1 in our favor. We seem to like that number but between the two of us. So yeah, I think tomorrow's going to go 3-1 in our favor.
Okay, I strongly appreciate that fire. I feel it too. I'm really psyched. I'm a massive just American homer and a fan, just almost to the level that you are with Canada, I would argue. And I've got our guys regardless of lineup configuration, but I think it goes 5. I think it goes 5, but then we beat you 15-8 in the 5th.
Whew. Come on.
I want that to happen. It'd be really funny.
Who's stepping in on the P2 for you guys? Are you going Jayski?
Dan and I, perfect world, and this is a very good question. Now, Dan and I talked about this the other day, and he brought this up in a way that I hadn't really thought about it before, because I've been assuming, based on history and patterns, that it's going to be Garrett Mangatutia. And now, whether or not that's the right choice, I won't speak on that, because I think a lot of people have the same opinion as Dan and I. But the pattern of the way that Speraw has used him the past 4, 5, 6 years even, he's not young, but he's hung around in the gym for this long and has gotten playing time in certain spots in international competition that I just see the pattern of him really having a serious chance to be the guy at that L2 spot in Aaron Russell's place. However, if it were me, I would take Thomas Jeschke. First of all, hometown kid. He's my age. I played against him in club. He's from Chicago. Love that. I was there when he tore his ACL in the 2018 VNL. I was there in Hoffman Estates. It was terrible. It was a homecoming for him. He was playing in front of his home fans, and he had about one of the worst injuries that you can have. And then the following year, he is making an incredible effort play, diving into a wall defensively, and hurts his shoulder and is out for pretty much a whole pro season. So for that reason, I think a lot of people have been sleeping on him, because he went back to Verona this year when Verona took a chance on him coming off of pretty much 2 straight injured years, and he balled out. And Dan made the point. He was the best North American outside hitter in Italy other than Aaron Russell. He was better than TJ DeFalco. He was better than Eric Lepke, and he was way better than Stephen Marr, who didn't see the court ever. So, yes, he was.
When Stephen Marr saw
he had a better season.
He was good.
Jeschke had a better season than all those guys. So he's coming off a year and is not being talked about enough as a really good option for the U.S. And my thoughts on TJ DeFalco, I mean, I know we really like to compare him and Lepke head to head because their play styles are similar enough and they're about the same age. I've seen 2 very different TJ DeFalcos before. I've seen both in person. I've seen Long Beach State TJ DeFalco, where he was the best player in the gym. He knew it and everyone else knew it. I've also seen first or second year on the national team TJ DeFalco, when he came in and replaced Thomas Jeschke after that ACL injury that I just talked about. And they were completely different players. It was night and day. And I think his Vibo Valencia TJ DeFalco is definitely somewhere in the middle. But the way that he carries himself in the national team gym is so much different and so much better than anything that most people have seen of him so far. He really, he humbles himself more. He lays himself back more. He fits himself into the team mold more. And if you catch him on a good day when he's really controlling the ball well, he is disgusting. So I think that he's going to have a very good VNL. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people with his consistency and his level of play. So, and I'm honestly not as low on Garrett Mangatutia as several other people are. So I think that he is very capable. He's not going to light up any category in the stat sheet, but he's going to do his job. So I would like Jeschke to get the start tomorrow. This is what I would like. I would like Taylor Sander, Thomas Jeschke. I would like Micah Christensen. I would like Matt Anderson. I expect Eric Shoji, and I would like middles. Assuming Max Holt is healthy, I would like him out there, and I would like David Smith out there. But let's say he's not. I'll take Jeff Jendrick. I'll take Taylor Averill, or I'll take Mitch Stahl. I actually really like all those guys. So um, that's my thoughts. Well, the USA has a lot of depth. Their depth isn't as like Olympic ready as I think Canada's depth is.
Your depth is legitimate depth, but you definitely have a separation of like this is the team that's going to the Olympics, and these are the next generation of kids that are here to get experience.
It's a good way to say it. Yeah, I agree.
And the no shade and slight to those guys. Like I think that those are all phenomenal athletes, and like we have Eric Lepke. Schwartz can kind of be considered in that because he's of a younger age group as well, but he's going to be on the Olympic roster, and barring injury or something like that. But yeah, just going back to TJ DeFalco, I did get to see TJ DeFalco for that A2 team that competed in Winnipeg at the North Championships.
Yep.
And he did impress me there quite a bit. Right, so I definitely think that he's going to be a member of your roster and one to watch.
I think if it weren't for Aaron Russell's injury, it would have been close for him. But I think now, assuming that Russell can't come back from hip surgery for Tokyo, it's very clearly Taylor Sander, Jeschke, Mangatutia, DeFalco. I think it's very clearly those four outsides.
All right, fair enough. For me, I think one of the most interesting things, just to go over my roster, I think we're going to have Perrin and Marr. I think Blankenau is going to be setting. We're going to Viregrass and Schwartz in the middle, Ban as libero, and we're going to go Sclater on the right side.
I have no disagreements with any of that. I think all that makes sense.
I think that, and I've said it on the Discord, and I won't let anyone tell me otherwise, that I 100% think that Sclater is our number one option right now. The season he had in France, the way he played at the Olympic qualifiers, I've heard it from the mouth of Blair Ban that he is tearing the leather off the ball right now, metaphorically, of course. I think that right now it's his spot to lose. Not saying that, I think in the States, you guys have two positions that are really locked up. On the right side, you've got Matt Anderson. Sorry, three along with libero. In the setter position, you have Micah Christensen, whereas we have three options and we're going to be used interchangeably.
Yep.
And libero, of course, with Eric Shoji. We have same thing with Ban. But I truly think, and we're going to have to touch on this, is that this is going to be a coming out party once again for Siobhan Vernon Evans, because he's in his element. He's with the team that he wants to be with. He needs a fresh start after dealing with Tragica all season long. Okay? And you know what? There's no place better to pump your tires a little bit than being at home. With the boys who, maybe are gonna ride you a little bit. Maybe they're gonna rag on you a little bit. Maybe they're gonna try to poke your buttons. And you know what? You want to talk about 2017? That was the best. Still to this day, that's the best we've seen Siobhan Vernon Evans. Right?
Absolutely true.
At the hands of TJ DeFalco, who was just setting him like an absolute maestro out there, right? He could have been directing a symphony, right?
TJ Sanders, you said TJ DeFalco, a different guy.
I made this huge passionate speech about it, and I messed it up.
It's all right. I know where you're going. Yeah, dude. Nobody's going to argue that Siobhan's ceiling is higher than Sclater's, but Sclater also, no one is going to argue that he's playing the better volleyball right now, just because of the circumstances of their seasons. I'm right there with you for free Siobhan, like the whole movement to get him on a club team where he can actually play. But you're right. Hogue knows that if he's going to start him, he's going to have an infinitely long leash for that match. At least I hope that's true, because that's the right approach for him for this point in his career. I hope that's the way, especially in a tournament like VNL, where even if he hits negative 200 and you lose, I think it's still a value add to just let him go out there and do his thing.
See, the thing is, though, is that it depends on how he's working within the system. And I think that's what for Canada is very specific. And that we've had times where Siobhan has been left out there and he's, only been getting a couple of points a set, right? Because he works so well within the system. Like the way we're able to build the block defense around his block because it's so strong and so consistent, right? His ability to set out of system, right? There's so many things that Shawan does well that are so underrated in terms of him being an overall volleyball player that allow him to add value, right? And even if he's not crushing the ball, right? So the thing is that if he's able to do the other jobs and still add value to that, like our roster is more than the sum of its parts, right?
That is true for every national team, which is why I think national team volleyball is cool. Going back to the point that you made earlier about club being driven by athletes, national team being driven by system. That's why I love one of the reasons why I love national team volleyball. And like Zaxa this year, good example. That team was clearly more than the sum of its parts. It's rare when you find a club team where that's the case, but all the national teams are. And just to counter your point there about Shawan, he is actually very good at a lot of different volleyball skills. But at the end of the day, what's his job at the opposite spot?
Crush the ball.
Score points.
Yeah, for sure. And like
points.
I think that he's going to be able to do that. Especially with the boys setting him. And you know what? I heard they're running him a little bit faster. I've heard that he's been learning to see. And like I'm gonna go back to the club season again because we've talked about this. But whenever like I know that he got value out of this season just because how I saw him interacting with the boys and how much like the team celebrated when he was being
that was obvious to me too,
being subbed in. And if you are like. It's perfectly understandable if he was to become kind of his own cancer in a way, like withdrawn and being like, I'm not playing, I'm not doing this stuff. But it's clear to me that he was doing the work on the back end and putting in the time with, some of the best athletes in the world. So I think that like we're going to see him unleashed here in this VNL.
I would like that very much. But I do think that Sclater will start tomorrow. I am very curious to see Sclater against the real big boys of international volleyball, because while he was very good in that Cuba game in early 2020 and he was very, very good in Montpellier this year, I think ramping up to Tokyo is going to be a different level that he may or may not have seen before. I'm very curious to see how that goes.
He's been like the player of the week in the VNL before. Like he's put up big numbers in the VNL before.
Did he play VNL 2 years ago?
Yeah. And
I don't remember.
And back then, but there was one.
Oh, actually, I do. He played the match that I was at in 2019 when you beat us, and I remembered seeing him like, who the heck is this guy? Just some placeholder opposite. He was good that day. He was great.
Yeah, I definitely think he's gotten better since then. Right? Like
I agree.
And in terms of like undersized right side, he might be one of the best in the world.
Yeah, he's good. He's what is he? 6'6"?
Yeah, 6'6", about that. I would pick Ryan Sclater any day over a certain Titans volleyball superstar that we see all the time.
Is he left-handed and from Japan?
He's left-handed and from Japan.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
Right, and I think that Sclater brings the whole package in a lot of ways. And you know what? When we play Sclater too with Jay Blankenau, like I love that combination because Blankenau, he runs it so fast. His right side setting, it kind of dips in a little bit, and it just allows Sclater to come in at an angle, and it's such a fast right side ball. And you pair that with the power of Per and Imara on the left side, and that's such a deadly combination when it's working well and we're in our system. Like our system is we're gonna trap you with our serve block game. We're gonna push you fast in a transition game because we can do that, and it's so much fun to watch. I can't wait for tomorrow.
That's a good point. So that's something that I was able to notice really clearly watching in person, and this is not just Canada but in general. So it's pretty obvious to me, at least to me, watching from afar. Obviously, it's better. You can experience more when you're there on the floor with the guys, but you can tell how fast the average position 4 outside ball is in system offense these days. What you can't really tell, though, is how fast the average position 2 or position 1D ball is these days. And when I was at the VNL final in 2019, when the U.S. got stomped by Russia 3-1, that really stuck out to me. How Matt Anderson was taking both front and back row balls pretty much right out of Micah's hands. The tempo that they were running on the backside blew me away. And I had I had seen for years how the game was evolving to just gun it outside as fast as possible. But I really didn't expect to be so surprised by the tempo of the back set that you're talking about. And it's a good point with Sclater, because if you have a guy that has the combination of two skills at opposite, where he can accelerate to a ball and jump on it into the angle, like Sclater can definitely do, or he has the skill and the comfort to wait for the ball to cross his shoulder and pound it down the line, or do a little thumb down the line.
That's one of Sclater's best
Right.
shots. Is he lets that draw it, and he can
Yep.
hit outside of his shoulder way more than other guys can, and he gets that back door either off the block, out of bounds. Like it's one of his best shots.
Very important skill for high level opposites these days, just because of the speed and the adjustments to the ball. If you're going to run the offense that fast, you have to be able to hit that ball when you're half a step in front or behind the set. That's really huge. And I've always had a huge thing for right-handed opposites who can hit the ball down the line, because that's my favorite shot. And I just really love seeing it, guys just really pull the ball down and hammer it at a high level. But the speed that right side is run at now in system it's difficult to hit that shot because it's so fast. You have to really either get the ball low and beat the block, or really wait longer to let it cross across your body. So
and the set's got to be there too, right?
Oh, totally. And yeah, with Micah Christensen, it's going to be. So I want to go back to a point that TJ Sanders made on your show that you brought up earlier. The level of scouting that is done in national team season is substantial, and it spans years of data you have on players. And so something that TJ talked about a little on with you that I wish you would have gotten into more is the fact that sometimes you have a guy, a rookie, come out and have a massive splash of a season his first year, but then he tails off even sometimes within that season. But then the year 2, year 3, year 4, you'll see sophomore slumps in volleyball, not because the guy is less able or that he doesn't continue to elevate his game, but because on the national team level, all of a sudden there is now data on him when his rookie year there was not. So Taylor Sanders is a good example of that. In 2014, he was the MVP of the World League because nobody had seen him. Now he continued to get better after that, and he's one of the rare cases that after that great of a rookie year, he just continued to produce at that high of a level. But I'm curious about tomorrow's matchup. There hasn't been international volleyball in 2 years. We have no idea which 7 guys are going to play for either team. How is the normal level of scouting going to impact this match? I think if you think about it right now, it will affect it less than usual because there's so much less that is predictable about who you're going to see. And even if you know who you're going to see, you're not necessarily going to see the same player that you saw the last time you were able to get scouting info on them.
I also think that both teams are going to be more internally focused, right?
Absolutely.
Like, when I talked to Blair, and I talked to him on Saturday, he was saying that some of the guys had just been, and they were leaving for VNL on Sunday. They were saying that, some of the guys were just getting back into the gym, kind of had only been into the gym 2-3 days, right? So a lot of that learning and re-gelling is going to be happening on the court,
fly.
on
Totally.
the fly at VNL, right? So I think that heading into this game, it's not necessarily. I don't think it's necessarily about what's happening on the other side. It's more about what are we doing on our side, especially since
I totally agree with that.
If this was game 15 of the VNL, right? If we were having this conversation in June, like in a month's time, I think it's a very different scenario because it's how are we executing our game plans? Where are we at about this? All of that stuff. However, I think that now it's definitely going to be about what are we doing on our side that's good and bad? Like, what do we need to work on? What do we need to fix? And what are we going to be relying on?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think if the two of us played later in VNL, it would produce a more meaningful and just kind of higher level and more developed matchup between the two. And tomorrow, you're right. I think the teams are going to be on their own sides because they have so much to figure out, being their first real competition in 2 years. But it's not going to take away the amount of trash talk that I'm going to give to your entire country when we beat you tomorrow. So we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, right. Where do you think you guys are going to finish?
That totally depends on the lineup strategy and just the way that the USA chooses to attack this tournament. And I brought this up when I talked about it with Dan. He put them fourth, and I agree because clearly the talent level is there to win VNL. Obviously, like if you don't think that the American starting seven can go out and win or medal in VNL, then you're crazy. But think back to 2019 VNL, and there are similarities and differences. 2019, first of all, there were 6 teams that went to the finals. This year, there's only 4. Also in 2019, the U.S. was hosting the finals. So they automatically got a spot in the finals and therefore the main intercontinental round. It didn't matter what they did, win, loss. They threw out some of the most ridiculous lineup combos I've ever seen because it didn't matter. This is a completely different story. However, the goal, probably, at least for the teams that consider themselves Olympic favorites, is not to win VNL. The goal is to win gold in Tokyo. So how is Spera and company going to use this tournament to build towards that goal? And does it involve really making a push to win the VNL? We'll see. The U.S. has never been a results-driven program. It has always been a process-driven program where several other like big-name national teams are not that way at all. Russia is clearly a results-driven program. I would argue that Brazil is as well. But the U.S. and Canada both are process-driven organizations, and it's the way they run their teams. So,
I mean, when you have
if the U.S. doesn't make the VNL, sorry, yeah, if the U.S. doesn't make the Final Four of this VNL, but Spera feels that they really got better and they made a lot of progress toward Tokyo, he's not going to lose any sleep over not making the finals of this tournament. But let's say that they do make the finals of VNL and they really don't play well in the finals and they take a step back and they really take those finals matches seriously and they really play their best guys and they don't perform well at all. That will be a step back for the U.S. So that's kind of my take on their approach to the tournament. If I had to pick where they would finish, I'm going to go with we make the finals, make the Final Four, but lose in the semis. So I think we're probably going to play for bronze. I think Russia is my pick to win the tournament. They have won the last 2 VNLs. Why not make it the 3rd VNL? I think that Serbia is going to surprise people and make the finals because they're not going to Tokyo and they have nothing else to play for except for European Championships in September.
They did win World League in 2016.
That was exactly the point I made the other day. So I think that if there's going to be a surprise team, and in a lot of these like VNL or World League competitions, there is. In 2017, it was clearly Canada.
It's our time again. Yeah.
Oh yeah. In 2019, I think Iran outplayed expectations because they made the final 6, and then I think they beat Brazil somehow. But this year, I think it may be Serbia again for that same reason that they aren't going to Tokyo and they might take this tournament more seriously. Who knows? I think it will fit the theme that even if the U.S. fails to beat Canada tomorrow by some miracle, we will outplace you as we have in every other tournament in the last like 10 years, other than the 2017 World League. You're like one for. Okay. Well, I have it all written down, dude. 2019 World Cup, USA 3rd, Canada 9th. Norsika 2019, USA 2nd, Canada 3rd. VNL 2019, USA 2nd, Canada 9th. World Championships 2018, USA 3rd, Canada 9th. VNL 2018, USA 3rd, Canada 7th. Olympics 2016, USA bronze, Canada tied for 5th. Like you get the picture. But then World League 2017, you medaled.
What? The roster hasn't. The schedule just hasn't been in our favor. You know what?
This is the No Excuses podcast. No excuses.
You know what? Hey, I think honestly, I think that for us, finishing in the top 6 is a good result. And I think that's attainable. Do I think that we could reach the finals? Yeah, I absolutely do. I think that's a possibility. But much like you guys are a process-based program, so are we. I think that's part of the North American charm to volleyball, where it's not, you're not Russia or Poland or Brazil that just has a entire closet stock full of players. It's very much like the NBA or the NHL going to the Olympics, right? Let's just look into our coffer of riches and just be like, yeah, we're just gonna pick the best, and then we're gonna run for that.
And
Whereas
then
in
and then if you fail to win the tournament, you fire your coach and you get the next guy in. Yeah,
yeah,
that's Poland, Russia, Italy, whatever. Like,
you know,
but
but
that's
like
not but that's not us. It's
but
neither
we
of our
we work
teams.
in we work in quads, right? Like,
Exactly.
you know,
Exactly.
we work towards the Olympics because that's where the majority of the funding comes from,
Yep.
because our both of our national bodies are terrible at selling our own sport and are
Fact.
completely incapable of getting us any meaningful sponsorships. But
Big fact.
that's a conversation for another time. Um, right? And like I don't necessarily think that, like, at this point, I don't think there's anything taking a step back, you know, and there's very little to be gained in everyone's positions. You know, if for the top teams who are all going to the Olympics, it's everything is gearing up towards that
Course.
point, and everything is, you know what, like, because at the end of the day, I think that almost any team can beat any other team, right? Like, if Russia doesn't show up, you know, they're not winning, right? It's not like Russia and Poland are so untouchable that if their guys don't show up and you know the passing breaks down or whatever, they can't set the ball, that they're just automatically going to go through, you know.
Right. That's
Think
true with anyone, like any of the Olympic qualifiers, any of the 12 teams there, unless you get to play Tunisia or Venezuela is
Yeah.
the other really bad team.
Yeah.
Yikes. So unless you get those matchups, it's the same way as the Olympics. Like, you have to take every single point of every match really seriously, because any team, absolutely any team, can come out and beat you on any given day. And that's why I think it's so awesome. I want to kind of close this whole discussion with this. The eye test of watching these teams throughout VNL and throughout the prep towards Tokyo, the eye test is going to be so much more important than any amount of numbers. It's not even funny. And I think this year that's true.
Than any
Maybe
results,
even
I would say.
exactly than any results. Like, even statistics, I don't think are going to matter all that much, as long as perhaps you might see some statistics improve as the VNL goes on. That might be a good indicator, but the eye test is going to be so big. And I told Dan this. I've had every one of the USA's VNL matches in my phone calendar for a month already, so you better believe I'm going to be watching all of them. And I expect this to be, just to see all of these matches, and in the sample size of watching every match of the tournament for the US, I expect to see the team get better based on the eye test. And I expect to see them figure each other out. I expect to see them start to settle themselves in, and then start to be able to look across the net and think about what's going on over there with matchups. And that's the exact process that we're talking about. And I think you guys can expect something very similar.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% think the eye test is what is going to dictate how I rank the Olympics heading in. Right.
Agreed.
It's you know what, if a certain team doesn't get the results they want to because of errors or execution on a certain day, like that isn't going to have a bearing over, you know, I really want to see how team dynamics work. I want to see how is their offense running. I want to see how is that, you know, how is their defense and block scenario going in. You know, I want to see, like, are they clicking? Do they have some things that they're going to be needing to figure out, right? Like, if I'm going to use the women's team, for example, like I think that there's a lot of good things happening in all of the rubble that is happening, you know? Like,
Yeah, well, there is. That's true.
right,
Totally.
right, because like we're at that process where there's a lot of growth, and I think that, you know, trying to sift through that is going to be the way to determine how teams show up at the Olympics. That being said, you know, you don't think it would be galvanizing for a team like Canada or the US to like finish like 9th or 10th in the VNL and just be like, hey, we know we're better than this, and we're going to put our nose to the grindstone until Tokyo, and we're going to push it, you know? That's a beautiful thing about the Olympics, is that, like, Cinderella stories happen, right?
Yeah.
And it's really, you just take it one game at a time, and it's one event, and if you're hot, you're hot.
That's what I love so much about that's why I think VNL is valuable in the scheme of international volleyball, is because you can gather so much information from the amount of volleyball that is played in that tournament, and especially the year going to the Olympics. Exactly the things that you said. Like, you can really use the eye test as somebody who really loves and appreciates high level volleyball. You can really tell the little details of what is making a team, of what is going to make you rate a team as their stock rising or falling going into the Olympics. It's really easy to tell that if you watch a ton of volleyball, and you can see all the little tiny little things, as it's of course a work in progress. Everybody hasn't played in 2 years. everybody's going to be working it out throughout the matches, throughout the weekends. And I'm so excited to see all the different teams develop in all of their different ways, and for that to manifest itself in hopefully some really good matches, starting with a USA beatdown of Canada tomorrow morning.
It's not gonna happen, buddy. We've got this wrapped up. Like, the boys are already getting ready for Argentina, because that's the real. Everyone in Canada knows that the real match isn't on Friday; it's on Saturday.
If you
when
lose,
we take on Argentina.
If you lose to an Argentinian roster with 9 guys, I will never.
Yeah, but
let
it's
you hear
all
the
of
end
their
of it.
best guys. The guys who aren't there are the bench
Not
guys.
all of them. Not all
they've
of them.
got Conte, they've got DeCecco, they've got Creer, they've got Soleil. What more do you need?
They don't. I don't think they have a libero. I don't think Donani's there. Anyway, if you lose to a 9-person Argentinian roster on Saturday, I'm never letting you hear the end of it. But right now,
Apparently,
all sights set on USA Canada tomorrow, noon Eastern. If you don't know where to watch it, come to the Discord. We'll try and help you out. But just pay for Volleyball World TV. It's worth it.
if you're in Canada, you can watch it for free on cbcsports.ca.
Is that true?
Yeah, it will be
Dude,
streamed.
sweet.
So if
Lucky
you live in Canada or know how to use a VPN, because it's CBC, so it's not like an extensive, like, it's just you can watch it. Like, I watch the matches on my Apple TV app. It's great.
Yeah, the huge shout outs to the FIVB for this, because they have an app now for Volleyball World.tv, like the subscription for VNL, that is Chromecast friendly.
Yes.
That was the best thing I ever saw when I downloaded the other day, because that's how I like consume all my media in my place, is by Chromecast. I'm like, thank God I don't have to like do some stupid thing from my laptop to make that work.
Although FIVB, you should definitely hire the both of us. Especially imagine a broadcast where you and I did like simultaneously, like talking.
I was gonna get to that
broadcast.
I was gonna get to commentary very briefly, because so far I've been watching women's VNL the last couple of days, and I have not been impressed by the level of commentary. It's just not been good.
It's been better. I've heard worse, and like I agree.
Of course, we've heard worse, Everett. Of course,
but
we've always heard
there's
worse.
2 people most of the time, except for the Canada games mostly.
That's true. That's a step up.
You know, we're on the lowest of the totem pole, so whenever we're playing, other teams, we get that one British guy who I'm pretty sure is going to be paired with Claire Hanna once she's done with the IIHF World Championships in Riga, Latvia. And Canadians will know Claire Hanna, former national team libero, now a superstar journalist,
and member of the Volleyball Source Discord.
Absolutely. Once she's out of, like, she's told me that once she's out of the hockey bubble, she's going to be right into the Discord, and she's going to be. I'm sure she's going to be loving the spiciness.
Fantastic.
So yeah, but yeah, if you guys need a place and some friends to watch it with, come hang out on the Discord.
We will be voice chatting for the match tomorrow.
We will be
100%.
voice chatting for the match tomorrow. Maybe I might even have like a lunch beer or 2.
I absolutely will. I'm going to do the most American stuff you could ever imagine, just because it's the occasion calls for it. I'm so excited.
That's great. I guess we're going to I'm in the process of moving right now, and there's just a few things left at my old place, including my Team Canada jerseys. So I don't think that's why I'm wearing this terrible polo. Not saying that nothing against the polo or Mizuno. Actually, it's a nice polo as far as polos go, but I don't like wearing polos. I've worn too many of these over the years.
I want to talk about so you brought up Mizuno. I will never forgive Canada for switching away from their old Mizuno jerseys, like the sleeveless ones with the simple with the big leaf on the side and the stripes. Those are the cleanest, cleanest look in all of volleyball. So I remember back in 2017, I actually kind of want to do this again. The 2017 some tournament, I did like a uniform power rankings for the teams in World League at the time on the men's side.
You were number 1 for sure.
You were.
Yeah.
You were. Yeah. You were number 1, and France was number 2 because the old French threads were sick. They have since gone away from those. So I'll always be mad at Canada for ditching those incredible looks for this stupid, like super tight, short sleeved, like 80s looking number business. Bad Mizuno. Shame on you. But if you want, if people are interested, I am going to do that again for this VNL.
I actually had one that I had prepared for the Italian league. I had ranked out all of the Italian league jerseys.
Those are tough because there's just so many. Yeah, definitely. Those are tough because there's just sponsors everywhere on the jerseys. National team, we don't have that problem as much. So yeah, once we get some looks at all the teams on court threads this tournament, I'll probably do a little rankings of them because I really like sports uniforms. I think that'll be cool.
Yeah, I definitely think that once you do, let me know, and We should talk about it on the Discord.
We will.
We'll get some consensus going.
We certainly will. All right, boys and girls, go USA. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be all Team Canada all day long, baby. We might gift you a set just for the fun of it.
I told you we're going 5 and we're beating you 15-8 in the 5th.
15-8.
You heard it.
Yeah, we got to
You heard it
rest
here
up.
first.
We got to rest up for Argentina. It's not going 5. All right. See you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace.